Harihi Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. We continue with Laghu Bhagavatamrita, text 7. Okay. Among all types of proof, I have accepted the chief one, scripture, while vehemently rejecting indulgence in logic. So we spoke about this already. Before the discussion even starts, then we have to establish the evidence, the common ground for the discussion to go. Otherwise we'll be quoting and referring to different sources, and this will create absurd situation, and it will be very difficult to reach a conclusion, because the discussion is supposed to, maybe you can also, if it's too cold, you can, because the discussion is supposed to establish Siddhanta. This is the goal of discussion. It's not just because we don't have anything else to do, we like to shine with our intellect. We think we are very good in rhetorics, and we just like to argue with people. People who just like to argue and to prove their point, but it's not about the point, it's about themselves. Therefore, people argue, prove something, and then they like to disprove it. It's all about the false ego. So here we are not talking about this type of discussion. It is also there. It is mentioned in the Nyaya Shastras, but it's not the best type of discussion. Here we are trying to establish a discussion which will give us proper Siddhanta or proper conclusion. And Hare Krishna. In order to do this, first we have to establish, Hare Krishna, the proof, the common ground. And here, okay. Oh, but we had to read first the footnote 5. We skipped the footnote. Okay, back to the footnote. Thus, there is nothing astonishing in dealing with the subject in this order. Footnote 5. Here is a summary of the invocation verse. So this is called Anubandha Chatushtaya, or Mangalacharana, auspicious invocation. The acharyas always start their works with auspicious invocation, and there are 4 main elements in it. First, Vastu Nirdeshatmaka. This explains or describes or states the topic of the discussion. Before the book starts, the author explains what is the book all about, what is going to be discussed in the book. Therefore, in the textbooks also, I remember my textbook in the university, they were always starting, oh, this book, this textbook is meant for the students and for the practitioners. It's always, and then it explains the subject matter, what is the topic. Vastu Nirdeshatmaka. The topic of the Laghu Bhagavatamrita is indicated in verse 3 by Marandabhara Tundila. We read this. The rich nectar and honey-like sweetness emanating from Krishna's lotus mouth. And in text 6 by a reference to the sweetness arising from Krishna, Krishnamrita, and the sweetness arising from his devotees, Bhaktamrita. So this is the topic. Vastu means substance, one of the meanings. So the topic of Laghu Bhagavatamrita is the Lord, sweetness arising from the Lord and his devotees. 2. Ashir Vadatmaka. It's also a tradition that the author will bestow blessings upon the audience. He will try to encourage the readers to read and study the work because they will attain certain blessings. Srila Rupa Goswami describes the blessings conferred upon the reader through the phrases so that all living beings can achieve liberation in text 1 and drawing in the universe in prema in text 4. This will be the Shruti power, the result of studying, understanding and applying Laghu Bhagavatamrita. It will be prema, liberation, and prema, love of God. 3. Namas Kriyatmaka. This is the third element. The Mangalacharana pays homage to his elder brother, Sanatana Goswami in text 6, and to Krishna, Krishna Chaitanya, and the holy names in the other verses. So this is paying obeisances. So first you explain what is the topic, then what is the blessing, what will be the result of the study, and then you pay obeisances to your guru, to the superiors, to the Supreme Lord. And then finally, the fourth element, finally the adhikara of the reader is indicated by the phrase Krishnamritam tatra suhridbhya pariveshyate in text 6. I will serve this nectar to his friends and well-wishers. I don't understand. His friends, that means Krishna?
I think it means...
Or friends of Rupa Goswami.
Yeah, the book is meant for his friends, but
right.
also...
Of course, it's automatic.
All the devotees, because they are well-wishers, they have a favorable mood, so they'll be able to understand.
Yeah, all devotees are friends. Because we share common interest, we share common culture, we want to please the Lord. So this is the adhikar or the qualification of the reader. He should be friendly to Krishna. He shouldn't be envious. If he is envious, then he's not qualified to read the book. He should put the book aside because he will only it will only create more obstacles in his development. The analogy given is you never feed poisonous snake with milk and bananas because it won't, although milk is excellent food, but this will not cure the poisonous snake of his envious mentality. It will simply increase the venom. This is what will happen. So you don't feed envious persons with excellent food, Krishna Katha, because they will become more and more angry and envious. So therefore, the qualification of the preacher is that he is supposed to discriminate between 4 types of persons. He should have love for the Lord, Balisheshu Dvishachucha, Prema Maitri Kripa Apeksha, Ya Karoti Samadhyama, Ishvara Tata Dineshu. So the preacher should know who is the Lord, he should have love for the Lord, he should be friends with the devotees, he should make friendship with the devotees, therefore all devotees are friends. Closer or more distant, but they're all friends. And then Balisheshu Dvishachu, then he should be he should be compassionate, he should be able to discriminate who are the innocent people among the general public. That means non-envious. They are just in ignorance, but they are not opposing the Lord per se. They don't hate Krishna. So you test this There are methods how you test this. If you're on the street distributing books, there is a way how you can tell. And then to these persons, the preacher, the Madhyama devotee, he should be kind to them, he should bestow mercy, he should enlighten them about Krishna, and he should avoid the envious ones. Dvishacho. Dvisha, envy. Therefore, we are in the beginning of every class, we are praying Sahana Bhavato Sahana Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvi Navaditam. Not let there be no envy between the teacher and the student. This is so important. When envy appears in this relationship, then the whole transmission of spiritual knowledge is blocked. Because the teacher will not want to hear, the student will not want to hear, and the teacher will be not inspired to teach because he sees that there is no interest. Also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains that those who will understand the spiritual topics, you don't have to spend too much time explaining it to them, trying to convince them. Those who are ready for the knowledge, for the mercy of Krishna, they will accept it easily. And there he says, and those who are not willing, they are not ready, even if you spend lots of time trying to explain, they will not accept. Therefore, one of the offenses against the holy name is, the ninth offense is?
To preach not to non-believers.
To the faithless, to the envious, basically. It will only give them a reason to blaspheme the Lord, and in this way they will degrade more. And if you hear their blasphemy, it will also affect you. So therefore, the book is meant for the devotees, for the friends of Krishna. Okay, so this was the footnote 5. And now we continue text 7. Among all types of proof, I have accepted the chief one, scripture, while vehemently rejecting indulgence in logic. As we said, so this is very important to establish the proof, the common ground for the discussion. Also, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains the Dashamula Tattva, the 10 basic truths of the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, he begins by establishing the pramana. Amnaya prahat tattvam harimiha paramam sarvashaktim risabdim tad binam samscha jivam prakriti kavalitam tad vimuktamscha bhavat bheda bheda prakasham sakalam api hare sadanam shuddha bhaktim satyam tad pritim eviti upadishiti janan gaura chandra swayam saha. So the first thing, amnaya, before establishing these 10 truths, Bhaktivinoda Thakur establishes the proof for them. So this is called pramana, and the pramana is always the Veda, the scripture. And on the basis of the pramana, there is prameya. Hare Krishna. Prameya means what is proved by the pramana. Okay, without proofs, you cannot prove anything. Which proofs have you accepted for proving your thesis? This verse answers. Shabda here means Shruti or Vedas and the Smritis, which follow after them. Okay, so scripture, there are two types of scriptures, two types of Shabda. Shabda means sound, spiritual sound coming from Krishna, from the spiritual world. And there are two types of scriptures broadly. Shruti, they're called Shruti, which means the original body of knowledge that was revealed in the heart of Brahma by Krishna. And Shrutis, it means it means what has been heard. Shruti means to hear, and they never change. They're always the same. All universes, everywhere throughout the whole creation, in all the different kalpas, different days of Brahma, they're always the same scriptures. For example, there is always scripture called Ishopanishad, and it never changes. It's the same, exactly the same. Eshavasya saravayat kincha jagatyam jagata. This is everywhere in the whole creation, the same. So Shruti establishes the law of Krishna, and then there is another body of Veda scripture which is called Smriti. Smriti means what is remembered. Smriti means when the sages heard the Shruti, then they understood, they applied in life, and what the result they got, they wrote it down. So Smriti is the living Vedic tradition. Smriti means when we apply the Shruti in life, what result we got. And this is recorded in the Puranas. It's just like you have the law and then you have the application of the law. You have precedents, the practice of the court. You have the law and the law applies the court applies the law, and then we have always these very thick books. What is the court practice? How the law was applied in different cases throughout the history. So this is Smriti. How do you apply the law of God? All right, so this is what we accept. Shabda means the spiritual sound. Scholars have described 8 types of proof. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Shabda, Artapati, Anupalabdhi, Sambhava, and Aitihya. So these are different types of proofs. But they all come to three main categories. So now we will look at some of them. Pratyaksha refers to the senses, such as the eye, which receive information about objects. For example, I see the jar with my eyes. So this is pratyaksha, sense perception. This is one of the methods for acquiring knowledge, besides shabda, spiritual sound. And we all use it all the time. So if now somebody starts knocking on the door, through our ears, we will understand that there is perhaps somebody standing there. And if we hear a voice of a friend of ours, we don't see this person, but we hear the voice outside, so we will make the conclusion that he stays outside of the door. This is how pratyaksha works. But it's not 100% accurate, because sometimes, consider, it is possible. Our friend is not standing outside, but somebody else recorded his voice on his phone. He came, he knocked on the door, and he played the voice of our friend, and in this way he put us in the illusion, because we think, oh, my friend is outside, but he's not outside. Somebody else is outside. So this,
or you mistook the voice of someone else.
Or you made a mistake, right? And you thought that this is, it happened to you, I guess. On the phone sometimes. You call and then somebody picks up the phone and you think this is your friend by the voice, but then this is how people do all this. They cheat people, call them up and then they say, oh, your nephew is calling, please send me some money. Okay, so this is pratyaksha. Then anumana is the cause, instrument, karana, of anumiti or conjecture, result, power. Anumiti is knowledge arising from paramarsha. Okay, so please don't mind the terms now. This paragraph will be very technical. I will explain when we read through. Paramarsha, vyapara, intermediate cause, knowledge of the minor premise. There is fire on the mountain, and paramarsha means cognition that there is a subject or paksha endowed with vyapti, invariable concomitance with which is a reason for coming to some conclusion. I see a mountain with smoke, which is concomitant with fire. And invariable concomitance, vyapti, means the non-existence of the hetu, where the sadhya, what is to be proved, is absent. Where there is no fire, there is no smoke. Or vyapti means the sadhya, which is never the counter-correlative of any negation, coexisting with the hetu. Anumana will prove knowledge of fire, for instance, with the reasoning, because there is smoke, there is fire. So, here, first of all, we have a whole course on Nyaya in this school, so the course has been taught, and we have the study material, so whoever is interested in logic, in Nyaya, in the Vedic logic, then he can take the course. Here we'll just try to explain this very shortly, in simple language. This is called Panchanga Nyaya, and it is explained by the sage Gautama in Nyaya Shastra. Anumana is, so we explained, Pratyaksha is acquiring knowledge through the senses. Anumana means acquiring knowledge through reasoning. And the example given very often begins like this. It begins by establishing the thesis that you want to prove with one sentence. As shorter as the better. So this is one thing that we should learn. What was this? True eloquence is essential truth spoken concisely. Okay? So we should learn this science of every word should weigh. Every should have a weight. No word should be put there without a reason. There should be good reason to speak up, to write down something. So, for example, when we ask a question, let's say now somebody wants to ask a question. The proper way to ask a question is you put the question in one sentence. If you cannot summarize your doubt in one sentence, that means you're not clear yourself what your doubt is. So then better you think about it and try to understand better, and then you ask the question. Otherwise you you go on and explain and talk 5 minutes, and in the end people are confused. They don't understand the question. So yes, so first summarize your question in one sentence, and then when the doubt and the question is clear, then you can give a background information. Then you can explain, well, I'm asking because, and then you can speak for a few minutes even, but then it is clear what you want to know. Otherwise it's not clear. Nobody knows where you're going. You start because this, and everybody is listening, and nobody knows where you're going to go now. But if you start with one short sentence, then everybody knows what is the background, and then it's easier to address the question. And it's better for you also. Okay, so the Panchanga Nyaya, this standard Vedic logic, begins with stating your thesis in one sentence. And the classical example is, there is fire on the mountain. This is called pratigya. And then the second part of the logic, it's fivefold. The second part is called hetu. Hetu means your reasons. You have to explain why what you're stating is true. So the example is, there is fire on the mountain, and the hetu will be because there is a smoke. This is your logical reason why there is fire on the mountain. Then the third part is you giving your examples. It's called udaharana. And then you say, when there is smoke, there is fire, just like in the kitchen. This is your example. In the kitchen, everybody knows, when you cook something, traditionally people used to cook with fire, not with electricity. So cooking means smoke, because there is always fire. This is the third part. And now the fourth part is very important, because so far we have been dealing with, because you're talking to somebody, right? You want to convey knowledge, information. You want to convince somebody about something that you know but he doesn't, right? This is the role, the function of logic. In the Western world, logic is, I think, more often understood as, okay, it's discipline of thinking, proper reasoning, but it has this connotation very often that you want to win an argument. Therefore, people study logic. They want to defeat somebody in a debate through logic. I'm going to logically prove that I'm right and you're wrong. It's kind of Rajasic approach to logic. But the Vedic approach is different. It is sattvic, it is transcendental, you can say. Because the idea is not to defeat somebody, but to find a common ground, to explain your realization, which is supposed to be higher, to him, and to explain how whatever he knows is all right, but your understanding is higher. And your understanding includes his. It is just broader, and in this sense higher. So, therefore, the fourth part is very important. It is called Upanaya, which means the first three parts, you're dealing with your reality. You understand, you explain some things that you see. It's not necessarily the person that you're talking, it's not necessarily that he sees things in this way. So you explain, you see so first you state your thesis. There is fire on the mountain, because there is smoke. When there is smoke, there is fire, just like in the kitchen. So far you are talking about your world. This is your reality. He is not part of it yet. So now the fourth, which is called Upanaya, which literally means bringing it closer to understanding. So you now, in this part, you have to include him in your reality, to connect your point with him, to explain how, to show how whatever he knows, you know, but you know something more and he can be part of it, to benefit him. And then the fourth part is, the example is, there is smoke on the top of the mountain. This is technically called vyapti. Now you establish that whenever there is smoke, there is fire. He has seen that whenever there is smoke, there is fire. In the example of the kitchen, he knows that. He so far, but he cannot connect with the mountain. So now you point it out to him that, you see, there is smoke, just like in the kitchen. This is inside your experience, inside your frame of reference. You know that. So now you have to expand your understanding and to apply this to a broader reality, which is on the top of the mountain. And now he, hopefully, if he's pious enough, he will understand. Okay? Makes any sense? Does this make any sense?
Yes.
Or it's rocket science? So therefore, logic is very. It's not a weapon that you defeat the enemy. It's a tool through which you bring people closer. You build bridges to people, and you communicate knowledge to them. That's what logic is supposed to be. Of course, logic can be used in other way, like in the Nyaya. It is explained that the best type of debate and discussion is when both sides, they want sincerely to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to reach Siddhanta. But this is not always the case. There are other cases when people don't want to come to the conclusion. They just want to defeat the other person. They don't even want to establish anything positive. They just want to dismantle the opponent's arguments. This is quite often the case when political debates are happening, and you see that people don't want to reach any conclusion. They just want to prove that the guy is fool. And then automatically they'll emerge victorious because he's bigger fool than I am. So you have to vote for me. But that's not the best scenario. All right, so this is Anumana. we acquire knowledge by reasoning. So then the fifth part of the Panchanga Nyaya is you restate your thesis. The point, the thesis, the statement that you started with, there is fire on the top of the mountain. You have proven it, the person has understood. Then in the fifth part you restate it again. Therefore there is fire on the top of the mountain. So this is it's called Siddhanta or Nirnaya, or conclusion. And then you ideally will quote some supporting evidence from Shastra. Okay? Yes?
He's quoting some statements from Shastra, a part of the fifth step, or it's a different, another step. He's quoting Shastra, part of the fifth, restating your thesis.
Mm-hmm. It's you restate the thesis and then you support it by quoting something from Shastra. And then there will be another doubt, usually, from the opponent or from the person you're talking to, and then the whole thing can start all over again. So Panchanga Nyaya means the fivefold logic. All right, so this is example of Anumana. So we explained Pratyaksha, you acquire knowledge through sense perception, direct sense perception. Then Anumana means acquiring knowledge through reasoning. You didn't see that there is fire on the top of the mountain, but you reasoned about it, and now you know there is fire. When there is smoke, there is fire. And then the third one, Shabda, means statements from trustworthy persons. On the bank of the river, there are 5 tala trees. So you haven't been on the bank of the river. You don't know. But then a trustworthy person tells you, on the bank of the river there are 5 tala trees, and now you acquire knowledge through hearing trustworthy person. You don't observe it, you don't use your anumana, but still you acquire knowledge. Because of that statement, there will be acquisition of knowledge. That statement or Shabda acts as a proof. The proofs we and Srimad accept are 3. So who are we?
Friends of Krishna.
Okay, and amongst the generic category of friends of Krishna, we are which friends?
Devotees.
Yeah.
Gaudiya Vaishnavas.
Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So we means Gaudiyas. The proofs we, the Gaudiyas, and Srimadva are the Tattvavadis, accept are 3. Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Shabda. So these 3 we just explained. These proofs are in relation to knowledge, to knowing objects of this world, not to objects of the spiritual world, because these proofs are also subject to faults in the observer, such as Brahma. Brahma is one of the faults, which means illusion. So now there will be examples about these faults and errors. One may by false pratyaksha see a bald man through a magician's tricks. The guy is not, but you see him like this. So it's a mistake. One may falsely infer by Anumana that there is fire on the mountain because one sees smoke which is arising from the mountain long after the fire has been extinguished by rain. Okay? Or there is no smoke anymore. But there is no fire, but there is smoke. And you mistakenly conclude that there is fire. But the fire has been extinguished a long time ago. But still there is smoke. Or maybe it's not smoke, maybe it's a fog. And you think mistakenly that it's... So these are examples how Anumana is not absolute proof. Pratyaksha is not absolute. Anumana is not absolute. Shabda, words from trustworthy persons are also subject to same errors, because the propositions of a person such as Kapila explaining truth conflict with others' propositions. So here there are so many sages, even in Vedic context, which have different opinions about things. So he's a trustworthy person. Materially speaking, he or she sincerely is looking for the truth and he has a good character, but he cannot establish the truth because he's a conditioned soul. And there are so many other people who have different opinions on him, which differ from him. So therefore, statement, or maybe he's just mistaken. Therefore, statements not uttered by humans are the proof of spiritual truths. So the real proof are statements which are not uttered, not spoken by conditioned souls. Therefore, Apaurushaya is the term that is used usually for the Veda. Apaurushaya, Purusha means person, Apaurusha means these are sound vibrations, these are words which are not spoken by ordinary human beings. They're spoken by Krishna and the perfect liberated souls from the spiritual world. So these testimonies are faultless and they're never wrong. Therefore, statements not uttered by humans are the proof of spiritual truths. Such statements are contained in the Vedas, their Angas, Puranas, and Itihasas. Okay, so this is the range of the Shabda sound, the spiritual sound, which is perfect. Vedas, their Angas, the Puranas, and Itihasas. The Rik, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva Vedas, the Itihasas, and the Puranas emanated from the breathing of the Lord. Brihat Aranyaka Upanishad 4.10. So the breathing of the Lord are the Vedas. Also, Garuda flapping his wings, that's also Veda. And some other things. Yes?
So getting knowledge from trustworthy persons, it may not always be trustworthy.
Yes, materially. But when you acquire knowledge from a liberated person, then it's always correct. The real trustworthy person. Because it comes from Krishna, through Guru Parampara, reaches to your Guru, and then it comes to your heart. And it's perfect.
It makes sense because you will never speak something which is opposite to Veda.
Yeah.
Whereas material people, sometimes they may quote some Shastra, but sometimes they may come to conclusion with their logic or with their sense perception and promote it as the absolute knowledge.
Yeah, they think that their mind broadcasts the absolute truth 24/7. So sometimes they will quote Bhagavad Gita, sometimes they will quote their grandmother. It's all the same, right? Because I quote it, so I must be right. But it's not... Therefore, social media is very dangerous. Because there are people who quote from the Shabda Brahma, from Bhagavad Gita, for example, and the next post, because you're scrolling, right? And then you see, okay, see, Krishna is talking in Bhagavad Gita, okay. Then you scroll down, then there is another quote from some nonsense, some rascal, some stupid guy, but it appears on the same page. So the illusion is that it has the same value. This is the default option. By default, okay, this is, and this, they're all the same. They have the same authority, which is not true. Therefore, one should be careful while using social media. This is just one reason. There are many other reasons. Okay. Yes. Moreover, the Shudra is qualified for some portions of the Veda, for it is said, Varshasu Ratnakaro Gnin Adadite. The carpenter should light the sacrificial fires in the monsoon season. According to this mantra, the carpenter or low-class person is qualified for lighting the fire. Footnote 7. A unique characteristic of the Puranas and Itihasas. Okay, what are the Puranas and Itihasas? Purana means old stories. These are the stories of the great sages, great kings, the great personalities of the universe. How they accepted the Veda, how they applied it, and what result they got. And Purana is the general history. For example, Srimad Bhagavatam, our main book, is one of the Puranas. It is called Bhagavata Purana. It's the best, the emperor amongst all Brahmanas. It's the most important scripture. So, and then itihasa means so it happened, literally. So these are stories, again stories about great personalities, but they are focusing on one particular family or one particular storyline. Puranas are general stories. So itihasas are Ramayana, the story about Sita Devi, and Mahabharata. Okay, unique characteristic of the Puranas and itihasas is that Shudras are allowed to study them. Typically, spiritually unqualified people are not supposed to chant or even hear Vedic mantras. But an exception is the class of chariot builders, Ratakaras, for example, who rank lower than Shudras because of their impure mixed birth. They are permitted to light the sacrificial fire and chant the mantras for certain yagyas. Why are the Shudras not allowed to study the Vedas? Sounds very, what's the word? It's like you're discriminating on the basis of birth. So, why are they not allowed? Because, yes.
Because if you don't have a good character and you have knowledge,
Alpa Jnana Bhyankara. Little knowledge is dangerous. Yes, and you will also misinterpret the Vedas. You'll come to some wrong conclusion and broadcast it. But everybody is allowed to study the Puranas and the Itihasas. So the liberals will be happy, yes.
Prabhupada is telling this story about a Brahmana doctor who he was treating animals.
Okay.
And one person wanted to learn from him, and then
Assistant.
They went to take care of a horse who had a problem. And they went, and the neck of the horse was super swollen. And the doctor looked inside and said, "Okay, give me a hammer." And then he punched the horse on the swollen part of the neck. And then the swollen thing disappeared, and the horse was fine. And then the assistant, he understood, okay, it's so simple actually to cure animals. So he started going around, and wherever they needed some help, he would just take the hammer. He started killing animals, and the news came to his master, teacher, and he went to him and said, "What are you doing? Like everybody is saying you're killing animals, like anything." He said, no, I just told you what you're doing. It's very simple. You just take the hammer, beat on the neck, and then becomes cured. And he said, "You don't understand. This horse was swollen a watermelon, and I just punched the watermelon, it becomes smashed, and then the horse was fine. That's why I used the hammer." So anyway, Prabhupada is giving it as an example that, as you were saying, if you...
Little knowledge is dangerous.
Yes, or lots of knowledge also, if you don't have the proper qualification, proper character, it can be also very dangerous, because like nowadays there are so many people who are very learned, they have so much knowledge, like they are PhDs, this, that, but because they don't have proper qualities, proper character, they are misusing this, like they will use their knowledge to whatever, create bombs or make fast money by
cheating people.
Yeah, by creating wars or
corruption,
pandemics or whatever. Like.
Yeah. Thank you. That is text 8. That is because the greatest sages have accepted Shabda as the ultimate proof, while showing the place of logic, as shown in the statement Shastrayonitvat. Logic is not the means of knowing the Lord, because knowledge of the Lord is produced from scripture. So we are not against logic, reasoning, but the logic should follow Shastra, should follow the testimony coming from the spiritual sound, and then it's useful. But if we try to understand the Lord based on our material logic, then we will be baffled, because the Lord by definition is above the range of our mundane materialistic logic. We cannot understand Krishna by logic, just by logic. And then here there is a quotation from Vedanta Sutra. This is the third sutra, Shastra Yonitvat. Literally means Shastra Yoni. That means knowledge about Lord is revealed by the Shastra. Okay, the Vaisheshikas reason as follows. Vaisheshikas are representatives of different school of Indian philosophy. Man's desires are not fulfilled, and rather they receive undesired results. Different from the desires, there is a doer with great power, the Supreme Lord, who makes the sprouts in the earth grow. We cannot do. He can prevent what is not desired and bestow that is what is desired. We should worship this Lord, and He will remove our miseries. Therefore, should we give up Anumana because of the Vaisheshika's speculation about the Lord and accept only Shabda? I think there is a mistake here. I think it's the other way around. Therefore, should we give up Shabda because of the Vaisheshika speculation about the Lord and accept only Anumana? But anyway, that's because when you read through, this part doesn't make sense. But will we get our desires fulfilled by doing this? Two verses respond to this doubt. We are followers of Vyasa and accept his opinion on the matter. So we are followers of Vyasa. What does it mean? We are followers of Vyasa. So there are 6 schools of Vedic philosophy. Nyaya, Vaisheshika. Nyaya means logic, Vaisheshika means atomic theory. Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, and Uttara Mimamsa, or Karma Mimamsa, and Vedanta. So these are 6 schools, and they all have their acharyas and their scriptures. So we belong to one of these 6 schools. It's called Vedanta. And Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra is written by Srila Vyasadeva, who is incarnation of Krishna, and we are his followers. Okay? Just to put it in perspective. So he says, okay, we are followers of Vyasa and accept his opinion on the matter. We have no fear of rejecting what is contrary to his opinion. So he's our guru, our acharya, and we follow him, and we have no fear to reject anything that he doesn't agree with. That's how it goes. If you meet a Marxists or Darwinians, how we call this? People who follow Darwin, or people who follow Nietzsche or Freud or any one of these guys, they'll do the same. They know their acharya, so-called. They know how he explains things, and if you argue against the teachings of their teacher, they will reject you. So we do the same. Only that there is one small difference, is that our teacher is the Supreme Lord himself, and whatever he establishes is the absolute truth. And they follow some conditioned soul who is under illusion, who is in Maya, who identifies with the body, who has the defects of the common defects of the conditioned soul. Okay, he says, Vyasa, he says Shastra Yonitvat, Brahma Sutra 113. The meaning is this. The word na should be added in response to the previous Purva Paksha. Purva Paksha means the opposing view. That means the argument of the opposition, Purva Paksha. And Purva Pakshi is the opposition, the guy who is opposing. He's the Purva Pakshi, and his argument is the Purva Paksha. The meaning is the object of worship, the Supreme Lord, known and then worshipped by Anumana or by the Upanishads. The Vaisheshikas will say that he is known by Anumana, by logic, because of the scriptural reference Mantavya. He is to be known by reasoning, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In response, we say, no, he is not known and worshipped by Anumana. We have footnote here. Like the most of the sutras of the Vedanta, Shastra Yonitvat expresses the resolution of a logical discussion. In this case, there is a doubt as to whether the Supreme Lord is to be meditated on after discovering him by inference, or whether he is knowable only from scriptures like the Upanishads. Some thinkers, like the Vaisheshikas, will propose that inference is adequate for gaining reliable knowledge of the Supreme Person, and they will cite Upanishads to support their stand. Indeed, Maitreyi, one should realize the Supreme Soul by hearing about him, applying one's reasoning power to understand him, and meditating deeply on him. Vyasadeva rejects this hypothesis, however. Only the Upanishads and supporting literatures are reliable evidence for understanding the Absolute Truth. So back to the text. Why? Shastra Yonitvat. The source of knowledge is scripture or Shabda. Scripture refers to the Upanishads, its portion called Bhagavad Gita, and what has been spoken by Shukadeva. Yoni means producing knowledge. Yoni karane bhagatamrayoho. Yoni means cause, female organ, and covering of the womb. The Lord will be understood by scriptural statements. This is confirmed in Aupanishadam Purusham Prichamaha. I ask the person who knows the Vedas. Nai Vedavin Manutetat Brihantam. One who does not know the Vedas cannot know the Lord. Okay, that's interesting. So if you know the Vedas, then you know the Lord. And if you don't know the Vedas, you cannot know the Lord. So if somebody claims that he knows the Absolute Truth, you have to ascertain whether he knows the Vedas. And if he knows the Vedas, then he may have some claim. If he doesn't, he is rejected. By dry conjecture, the Vaisheshikas speculate that the Lord is a material entity endowed with action, desire, and eternal knowledge, who accepts a material body like a person haunted by a ghost for creating the world, and who later gives up that body. So what's the problem with this statement? Krishna never gives up his body, right? Because there is no difference between himself and his body. It's absolute spiritual. The Upanishads say that the Lord is condensed bliss and knowledge, has qualities such as having knowledge of himself, is unchanging, possesses unlimited variegated energies, is of medium size but pervades everywhere, has eternal spiritual abodes, and is accompanied by eternal associates in pastimes. How can the supreme sage Vyasa, who accepts these conclusions of scripture, accept such anumana? Thus it is concluded that for describing the highest tattva, the source of knowledge is the Upanishad or scripture.
Also, if you try to understand the Lord only through logic, how are you going to come to one united conclusion?
It's not possible. That's one of the arguments, because there are so many sages, and the definition of a muni or sage is that he has to come up with some new, unique philosophy. Otherwise, he's not counted amongst the sages, the munis.
And even why only sages? Why only the sages they can state what is the absolute truth?
Yeah, now it's everyone.
We can come to conclusion through logic. Everyone should hear
Yeah.
this.
Now it's the time. Now, before, in order to publish a book, you gotta have some qualification. Now everybody publishes books. Now internet is for everyone. Everybody has a YouTube channel and broadcasts whatever revelations he stumbled upon. And like Maharaj was saying about in New York, everybody's a philosopher now. Even the taxi driver, even when he will tell you everything. He knows all the philosophers. He has figured it out. You know, in Kali Yuga, the Shudras, they think they're qualified, even lower than Shudras, to speak about absolute truth. It wasn't like this before.
I remember this program in Aachen with the Amrita.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember at one point Maharaj was sitting and there were like 2 or 3 of them attacking him with arguments simultaneously. One from here, they're all. And Maharaj at the end, at one point he said, "But okay, but so what do you study?" And the guy, he was a nice boy, Indian, pious boy. And he said, "I'm studying chemical engineering or something." And Maharaj said, "Well, engineering, it's very easy. I can also do it. I have my Lego constructor, and that's the same thing, right? I just do stuff and build some nice bridge or whatever. It's very easy. What do you have to study so much?" And the guy, he said, "Well, you think it's easy, but once you started studying, then you see it's not so easy. It's not so." Maharaj said, "Yes." So then, by the same logic, I have studied this spiritual science for the last 40 years, and you haven't. And how come now you are trying to argue with me? What do you know about this stuff? So that means the same thing. I'm arguing now with you about engineering, and the guy was silent after. He was not inimical or envious or anything. He was just
challenging, but
in a nice way. Anyway. All right. Okay, we'll read also this. Text 9. Moreover, from the statements Tarka Pratishtanat, logic is unsubstantial, the sages have clearly shown disregard for Tarka. If he accepts the Shruti statement Mantavya, then Vyasa must also accept Anuman. This verse responds to that doubt. Because there are contradictory conclusions reached by the logicians following Sankhya concerning the Supreme Lord, Vyasa recites this sutra, Tarka Pratishtanat, Brahma Sutra 2.1.11. The word na should be added in front of the statement. Footnote. This sutra answers the proposal of the Sankhya philosophers, presented as a logical argument, that material nature is the actual cause of creation, and the Supreme Person is only a passive witness. So, nature herself created all this. And the Lord, although He is there, He is just passively witnessing. This is the Sankhya's theory of Purusha and Prakriti. What do we say to this? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dekshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetuna Nena Kanteya Jigat Viparivartate. This Prakriti, this material nature, works under my control. Krishna says it's my energy. She doesn't work independently from me. I control her. So that's our response. Krishna himself denies this statement. There is no stability in logic because of the great variety of man's intelligence. This means that by logic it is not possible to discern the highest truth or God. Thus the Shruti says, "O dear Nachiketa, do not destroy your intelligence suitable for worshipping the Lord by logic." That's very, very cute. You are intelligent to worship the Lord directly. Don't destroy your intelligence by dry logic. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was saying that I was a dry logician and I was barking like a jackal. And now with the same mouth I chant the sweet names of Mukunda and Hari. Tarka technically means reductio ad absurdum, indirect argument, to conclude an invariable attribute, vyapaka, by supposing the invariable concomitance cause, vyapya. If there is no fire cause, there will be no smoke attribute. Removing the supposition aspect of the invariable concomitance, it becomes a type of anumana. Therefore, Tarka is synonymous with anumana. We already explained how Hanuman works. Then what is the function of saying mantavya? One should use logic. Because here the argument is, okay, you are speaking against logic, but Shastra itself says one should use your logic. So you're contradicting Shastra now. One can accept that logic which follows the scripture. Logic which follows the scripture is acceptable. Giving up dry logic, which means independent from scripture, just your own speculation. One should take shelter of Shruti and Smriti. Thus the Vedas are the source of knowledge for Vyasa. Logic following the conclusion of the Vedas is not rejected, but dry logic should be avoided. We follow Vyasa. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. That was. Om Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Hare.